a wonderful discussion led by our students, which is the most exciting point of all. So I'll keep my remarks brief so we can get straight to what we all came for. This is our diverse recruiting discussion with student leaders at George Mason University. My name is Mary Claire Kraft, and I work in the Office of Career Services on campus at George Mason. Before we get completely started, please continue typing your name, where you work, and where you're joining us today. I love to see both names I know, people I miss seeing on campus, and new employers from near and far. So it's just wonderful to see all of these coming in, and it'll be fun for us to look at after the webinar as well. Today, you are going to hear directly from leaders of our identity-based student organizations about how they really want to be engaging with you. These are really the keys to success at Mason, where our diversity is so rich. So take notes, engage. If you have a question, what we would like for you to do is to put it into the Q&A field that you'll see at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We're going to try to reserve chat for just sort of housekeeping measures. Please make sure you put your questions in the Q&A, and we'll chime in every now and again if folks seem to be forgetting. It'll help us manage the flow of questions better if we do that, okay? So this really is the first event of its kind for us. We're very eager to see how this goes and what all of you think of it. There is the world's shortest 3-question post-event survey that you'll all be invited to fill out. And we really are hoping to hear from all of you so that way we know if the format is what you were expecting, if the content was rich, and more importantly, or maybe just as important rather, what you would like to hear from George Mason about next, because we are actively engaged in the space and hoping to continue the dialogue in many, many ways. All right, so with that, I'm going to stop, and we are going to ask our student panelists to introduce themselves. Panelists, I'm going to go in the order that I have you on my screen, and that means we are going to start with Shruti. Take it away.
Hello everyone, my name is Shruti Gupta. I'm currently a senior majoring in computer science. I'm the vice president of the Society of Women Engineers at George Mason. My career ambition is to be a program manager and lead a team of cloud architects and cloud engineers.
Welcome, Shruti. Thank you. Crystal.
Hi everyone, my name is Crystal Young. I'm a graduating senior. My major is rehabilitation science with a minor in developmental psychology. And I'm the vice president for Shea Streams Not Boys and a student leader for BLACC. And my career ambition is to become a nurse practitioner, specifically in the labor and delivery.
Awesome, thank you, Crystal. Emaan, you're next.
Hi everyone, my name is Emaan and I'm a sophomore studying information technology with a minor in marketing, and I'm the public relations manager for the Pakistani Student Association here at Mason. And my career ambition is to end up in IT consulting or digital marketing.
Thank you. Charles?
Hi everyone, my name is Charles Amar. I'm a 4th-year student at Mason. My major is mechanical engineering. I'm a member of the National Society of Black Engineers, aka NSB. I'm the treasurer for that organization, and also I'm a brother of Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated. And my career ambitions, I want to go into renewable energy within engineering.
Awesome. Thank you all for your time. And again, we're just so appreciative that you're here to share your voice and your ideas with our employers. And with that, let's get the panel started. We have some questions that we've pre-generated. We're going to start with those. And then as the event moves along, we'll go down to that Q&A field and get some questions from the audience live, okay? So keep those questions coming, all of you employers on the line. We're going to be addressing some of them in the moment and saving some of them for a little later in our time together. With that, let's start with Shruti. At Mason, students are encouraged to research employers before applying to a position. We're saying it all the time. Make sure you do your research before you just start sending applications out there, right? What are the indicators that a company is inclusive? What do you look for?
The first place I would go to learn more about a company is definitely their website. And the first thing I would look for is a statement from the company talking about what diversity inclusion means to them and what their focus is. It really helps to see that the company knows what this means and are able to show how important it is for them. I also look for their inclusiveness initiatives on their website. These initiatives could be anything from having employee resource groups, accelerator programs, or leadership programs for diverse talent. I definitely like to see the impact that these initiatives have had, potentially through numbers. So, there could be numbers like the percentage of women that they have in leadership positions, or publicizing their diversity demographics. Another thing I like to see is that, if they have a whole page dedicated to diversity inclusion, and how easy it is to find this page. Because if I have to click through many pages to find this, to me, it shows that this may not be of main importance to them. Because I've also seen companies where they have this information right under their About Us section, and it shows that, they truly care about this, and they want, people, browsing through their website to know about this as well. I also feel like having a chief diversity and inclusion officer shows me that they are truly invested and committed to diversity and inclusion. I've also seen many websites have a link to their diversity and inclusion reports, which further goes in depth into their initiatives, talks about their impact in the past year that they've had, and also talk about what future goals that they have for diversity and inclusion and how they plan on implementing them in the next couple of years. Another thing that really shows diversity is within their leadership team. A lot of the websites have a list of employees at the top leadership level, and I like to see, if there's like a diverse mix of people. It helps people see what types of people are usually getting promoted within the company. And I think all of these things really show to me how committed to inclusiveness a company is.
Awesome. Thank you, Shruti. So many great nuggets there. How about Emaan? Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think, first of all, Shruti, that was a pretty good overall analysis. But I do think that one of the main pointers to sort of note here is that diversity does not necessarily mean inclusivity. I'd say like diversity is about, numerical representation and sort of the percentage of people with one attribute versus another. So, and then I think inclusivity is sort of like continuously created through the ways people and like the organization operates. So in the ways that the employees constantly feel that their ideas, concerns, and performances are being valued. And Shruti mentioned a little bit about leadership, and I think like the main indicators of inclusion is leadership. And I think so one of the questions that should be asked are like, are employees from marginalized groups on track to moving up in the organization? Do they have access to effective and personalized mentoring within the company? Because at the end of the day, the leaders in the company do make decisions for, I guess, the rest of the company, the employees, and everyone else. And I guess like if there weren't any diverse people like on the leadership committee, it would almost be redundant to say that a company is inclusive.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Those are great points. Crystal, how about you?
Yeah, I agree with Shooting, especially about going on the website and looking at the statements of what they're saying. But also before you even apply, I feel like on Handshake and LinkedIn, you can see like who's applied, like who currently works there, specifically at Mason. So you could email them or like email them and just ask them about how's the workplace there and how visibly diverse it is and how they feel about the company as well. And also there are some websites that are like trainings every month. So they can look into that trainings as well.
Absolutely. Anytime anybody plugs Handshake, it makes me happy. Before we move on, anyone else have anything they want to add? Okay, Charles, the next question is for you. Are you ready? Are you evaluating how potential employers respond to current events impacting marginalized groups? And if so, in what ways?
Yes, of course I'm evaluating it. I'm always looking out to see what they do, what they respond to it. Of course, not to say, I know most companies will just send like a simple, a simple announcement about it, that we stand for this, that, and the third. And, that's really good. But, like for me, talk isn't a lot. I want to see like I want to see like that within the company as well. So, when I see companies post stuff like that, but then it's not reflected within the company, I like see it and I'm like, okay, so which one is it? Like, I want to see action within the words you guys are saying.
So more than just words. Absolutely. Thank you for those thoughts. How about Emaan?
So I guess like I would do say that like I think because of so many recent events which have been, transpired over the past couple of years, it is important to look towards and be interested in companies that are working towards just more than like surface level social responsibility that a corporation can have. And I guess traditionally that would mean, like short-lived, like philanthropic efforts, social issue marketing, and diversity inclusion work. But I think that's almost, it's like an afterthought or something. Like it, like after an incident happens, it'd be like, okay, like now let's do it. But I think now the emphasis is landing on like how companies would be focusing on the relationship and trust built with its, customers, shareholders, and employees, and like the broader community around the company, and how it's like not an afterthought, and how it should be something that the company should be taking account no matter like when the incident happens, and like taking a public stance on various issues, which is like maintained throughout, I think, which is really important.
These are great thoughts. And it really does seem like we just saw Major League Baseball pull out of Atlanta. Another example from sports in our very own city, when FedEx Field changed a couple of their policies, then we have a new name for our football team. So it is kind of exciting to see, but I totally agree with you guys. And I love the idea of employers being able to put some action behind those words. This one wasn't on our pre-script, but I want to throw it out there. Like what kinds of things would move you? So that they've made the statement, they've said this matters. What would you look for next? And this could be for any of you.
One thing I was going to say is that, like showing initiative, like, giving, people of minorities, like leadership roles within the company, going like that extra step to like, this is happening, we're there for you, sending that message out to them, and then also like uplifting them and letting them know that we're here for you and we got the resources for you as well. And, I want like making the step and saying, you know what, I see what's happening. I do see this as an issue, and I see that you feel a type of way about this. So going forward and saying, I want to put you in this position so you can also advocate for your group as well. And just little stuff like that will really make a big difference.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think it's important to note that like, I mean, like I think of it as a very positive note where a company like makes public stance that, like might be a little controversial, but at the end of the day, like they aren't afraid to like lose any customers or, people who are involved in their company, but they like stand their ground because they really do believe in something, and they want to make sure that, the community around them knows it. And I think that's pretty powerful.
I also think if, like the leadership team puts in the effort to maybe reach out to like minorities within their, company and ask them for advice and ways how they can improve and, be more inclusive. I think that also really helps and shows that they're genuinely interested and want to, drive change and act towards it.
Great. Thank you, guys, for going off script with me. Emaan, I have this next one ready for you. What is the most substantial or innovative diversity, inclusion, equity initiative that you have seen, like either at Mason or just out and about? And could you tell us what that looked like?
Right. So I did read an article actually on about a company, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, but it's a communication tool which companies use within themselves. And this program basically like invests in future leaders within the company who may possibly have like a positive impact on the company and like, like how it's going. And it's basically a 6-month sponsorship program for, people in a company, employees in a company, which have shown that they really do know the work, they know the company, and, they're emerging leaders at this company. But previously you might have lacked support from the company, whether that be from the company or like, in general. So this program allows them to, receive like career development training, coaching, and then sponsorship with like someone who's on the board, for example, of the company. So it really just provides a step to making like the executive board of a company extremely diverse, and like it really shows inclusion. So I think that's a really good practice, which I've seen.
Awesome. Charles, do you want to comment?
Yeah, so I have two. One of them isn't necessarily about a specific company, but whenever orgs like NSBE, SWE, SHIP, the ethnic companies will have like their own workshops or big career fairs. When I see companies come out to these career fairs and be really like deliberate and actually want to like hire people who look like us and who identify with those people, and like especially when they bring out people who look like us to those events as well, so we can really connect. That's one thing I really like. So we can really, like I said, I formed so many bonds with through BEA and the NSBE Natural Convention just by doing that. So I really enjoy companies that come out here and they actually deliberate and they actually really want to hire us. And the second thing is from a specific company. I know one of my mentors work there currently, and they were telling me how they have like different, like, I want to say work clubs, but like they're kind of like a clubs and different like groups where they're like together and they kind of advocate for each other, and they make sure like certain things get pushed, and they want to like make sure that the entire workspace is diverse, and they push for that within those groups, and the higher ups like fully like are engaged in it too. So when I see things like that, like it really makes me happy.
Would you do me a favor, Charles? You used a couple of really good acronyms. Could you just, what's SWE?
SWE is the Society of Women Engineers.
Thank you. And NSBE is?
It's National Society of Black Engineers.
And then I think you said one organization that you participate in as part of NSBE?
Yeah, NSBE is I'm the treasurer.
And was there one other group, BEA?
Oh, BEA. So BEA is a Black Engineer of the Year. So like that's it's an award, but it's also a conference held in DC every single year. This year was virtual, but whenever companies come out to things like that and show their face and really want to engage with us, it's really good for everyone.
Awesome. I wanted everybody on the line to be able to write those down as ideas for places where they could engage in the future. Thank you so much. Other panelists, does anybody else have anything they want to add about a best practice they've seen for demonstrating these topics: diversity, inclusion, equity? Okay, we'll move on. This next question is for Crystal. Employers, while we're chatting with Crystal here, make sure you're typing your questions into the Q&A. We have 2 pre-prepared questions left, and then we're going to open it up to all of you. So I'm hoping to see a lot of questions pop in there. So Crystal, I'm going to ask you to keep it anonymous without sharing the name. Let's talk a little bit now about, describe the qualities of an employer, a company with a positive reputation or brand for diversity at Mason. So now we're getting really local. We've talked about sort of like broad ideas. Let's bring it home to Mason, right? What makes these companies different?
I currently work for a company, but I'm not going to say the name. We started a task force called the Racial Justice Student Task Force, specifically about what was going on in the summertime in the summer 2020. So that we just discussed recent current events, and we want like experiences from other people as well for the racial justice. So we have like a food for thought that comes up every month that started this semester. So we just talk about current events and how for my company, I just like how they brought up to the employees, specifically in our company, about what we wanted to talk about and like what was going on for us. And I just like how they have the communication of the students and how like they want our voices to be heard first and then to deal with what's going on next.
That's great. So Crystal, help me draw the parallel. So this company that you get to currently work for now, it sits at the table. They participate in the discussions. Did they participate? I'm genuinely asking because I don't know. Money or just like their time, their energy? What was it that made you so excited?
It was time and energy. Like whoever wants to come forth to the meetings, just bring whatever you want to talk about, specifically about what's going on in the world. And we just go about and just have breakout rooms and just discuss and like how we can prevent it from like happening and just having like world scenarios.
And how did this particular company get engaged with that initiative? Did they reach out to your group? Did you guys reach out to them? How did that work?
They reached out to us, and then we just had a small panel from our company just go on, and that's how it is like every was twice a month to just go on and just discuss about it.
That's great. Shruti, do you have any thoughts to add?
Definitely. I think a company is truly invested in being diverse if they, make an effort to reach out to diverse organizations on campus and do events with them, and are actually committed to hiring their members as well. We've had Society of Women Engineers have had companies reach out to us and do collaboration events, do events with us. But not just that, they also do collaboration events with multiple diverse organizations. So SUI has had an event with NESB and SHEP, which is the Society of Hispanic Professionals. Those events are really helpful because before the event, you have multiple meetings with the employers, and these employers like to ask for advice and ways that they can improve inclusivity and attract a more diverse crowd. And they, as Crystal said, they're willing to communicate, and they're willing to hear our stories and actually make changes. So I think that really helps having a lot events with diverse organizations on campus, and even having events with multiple of them. During the events, they not only talk about what their company does, but they also talk about their culture and commitment to advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion. They talk about their programs, and we've had a company talk about like their mandatory trainings that they have for their employees, that they have to promote an inclusive workplace culture. When companies are emphasizing this, it shows how important it is for them, and all our members are able to see that as well. These companies also suggest on doing panel events with their diverse leaders from their company to come and talk about their experiences and answer any questions that the members would have. And I thought that was really great too, because they want to have a more diverse workforce. And what they also do is they're genuinely invested in having a diverse workforce. Like, and we have a lot of companies come and tell us that they want to hire more people. They want to make their workforce more diverse. But sometimes they just have an event and then they don't really do anything about it. But we've had companies come and they do on-the-spot interviews, or at least they guarantee interviews, and a lot of our members have actually been hired through this. When I look at it, these are the same companies that actually have a strong diversity initiative, and they're acting towards this, and they're driving change. And I think all this makes them really different.
And just to feed off of that, like one thing I always look at, for me personally, whenever, I want a company to come out to see like our members, because usually like I'm on the board, so I usually coordinate a lot of these things. I've been on the board for 3 years, so I usually run these things. I know I just have the most experience doing it. But usually when we do it, I always look at the company's history with hiring. So I like look at last 5-7 years, like how many people have they hired who are within our background, you know what I'm saying? And just I feed off that because a lot of times, there's one specific company, I'm not gonna say their name, of course, but there are some companies that where they come to Mason a lot, and they come to us a lot in the past, and nothing is shown from it. You wouldn't even know that they've been there. A lot of times it's just like a presentation and then they leave. They don't take any resumes, and a lot of times it's kind of discouraging because a lot of members will come out to these events, really trying to like put themselves out there and be vulnerable about it, and nothing to show for it. So it's kind of discouraging. So for me personally, like I make sure, like if that happens a lot, like there's a history of it happening and there's nothing to show for it, I just cut it. Like there's no reason for them to come back again until I see any improvements. You see what I'm trying to say? So just feeding off what she said about that.
Yeah, and this semester, Society of Women Engineers have kind of made it mandatory. If a company wants to do an event with us, then they either have to, we at least encourage them to at least collect resumes or do on-the-spot interviews, guarantee interviews, because as Charles said, like our members are coming to these events, they're taking out time from their, schedules, and they're genuinely interested in the company, but nothing really happens after that. So we definitely try to promote building that relationship and maybe having companies hire.
Those are great thoughts. Those are great practical tips that an employer could implement. That's fantastic, guys. Anybody else want to chime in on that before we move on? This is our last prepared question, and I am seeing things coming in on the Q&A, so we'll have plenty to talk about. So this question is for Crystal and Shruti, but since it is sort of like a wrap-up question, any of you please consider chiming in, because what I'm going to ask is if you could offer one piece of advice, and now we're being really succinct here, what would it be to get, what one piece of advice would you give an employer to better connect with Mason students? One nugget. And Shruti, we'll start with you.
I definitely think that employers should connect with students through organizations that on campus that are active and actually interact with the Mason community. I don't think just sending out plain emails about their open positions is the best way to go. I feel like actually connecting with the students and building real relationships and having that real engagement truly adds value and shows the student that this company is invested in their employees. I also feel companies should have a larger variety of events because sometimes information sessions can get very repetitive and a lot of the information can be easily found online. So finding more creative events and less intimidating events can better help them better connect with Mason students. I also encourage employers to follow up with the students that attend their events and continue building the relationships through that.
Thank you. Crystal?
I agree, Shruti, specifically about the messaging. For me, if an employee like messages me on LinkedIn, a handshake that is not in my position, I honestly just ignore it. So if it's something that a role that I would want to email back. So it depends on like what role they're messaging about. So I would say like keep it to their what they're looking for, whatever it says on their resume or on their page.
Anybody else have one last, well, not last, but one piece of advice that they would give an employer to better engage at Mason?
I would just say be deliberate with what you do. Make sure that there's action behind what you do. It's not just like I popped up here and this is it. Like make sure you actually follow through with everything you do. So, the students want you to come back.
I love it. Be deliberate. That's a great way to sort of sum up a lot of what we've just talked about, right? So thank you guys so much for all those great answers. And now we're going to go to the live Q&A. Okay, this is when the fun really begins, when we get to the questions we haven't talked about. If I haven't been bad enough about reading my notes to the side, now I'm going to be reading them on the screen. So my apologies. And panelists, I'm just going to read them out loud. And we're going to try, just unmute yourself, and whoever feels most excited to answer, you can go ahead and do so, okay? The first question is, for companies that are transitioning to become more diverse, what are the key identifiers that you look for as a sign of progress? Maybe they haven't been diverse or inclusive in the past. How would you like to see this change displayed? Great question.
I definitely think having I guess I would see if the companies have some kind of program. I think Emaan had mentioned like a leadership program for diverse talent, or like having more employee resource groups, or even having like a diversity officers. I think seeing those kind of changes really helps, and maybe seeing changes through like numbers, maybe reflecting the percentage of people hired from different demographics or minorities in leadership positions. I think seeing those really, or even having goals. I think showing like future goals, like I know you just started, but having like in 2 years we aim to do all of this, like having that I think really helps.
Yeah, and going off of what Shruti said just now, I think I mean, obviously like change doesn't happen, in like a year or something. And I think that's also for us to keep in mind, and we shouldn't be like too harsh, because we realize like it takes time. And I do think that, keeping your company accountable is super important, because you may have these goals, but I think like at the end of the day, like, are you reaching those goals? And like holding yourself accountable is really, really important.
Great answers. Anybody else? So this is another great question. How does an organization that doesn't have a lot of diversity based off of their location, like example, we are in one of the most diverse areas of the country, and George Mason itself is an incredibly diverse ecosystem, right? So what could a company do to make themselves more enticing that they can attract diverse talent to their area? What do you guys think about that?
Well, one thing I would say, like kind of what I said before, going out to these big conferences, because Bayer, like I said, Bayer is in DC, but I've seen people from California, from Arizona, from all over the country go to Bayer for the conference. So it's not, so it's more so making sure you go out there and try to recruit people to go out there. And I know one of my friends, he ended up working for a company in Utah, and that's very, very far away. So it's definitely possible. Just make sure you make those steps into like doing those things. I know one of my friends, he got a job at the NSB convention. He worked in Florida right now. So there's no like this too far or whatever. It's more so just making sure you make those steps to find out the best way to get people to come to your company.
I agree with Charles. I also like to say collab with like organizations on campus as well. Email them, DM them on Instagram, Facebook, and like let them give the word out to the other students on social media, because collaboration is a big one for organizations on campus. That's how we get the word out for everybody, whoever's interested. You don't have to be a part of the organization as well.
Anything else? Those are good suggestions. Okay, let's go to our next question. So this question is trying to assess how all of your student groups and clubs, what your role is in helping your members finding employment. Okay, so the question is, because of course, all of these amazing employers are doing an incredible job posting their opportunities on Handshake. So beyond that, what's the next step for getting job openings and information about companies to your organizations? How do you like for that to be received in other ways of promoting opportunities to your clubs and organizations?
I could start by answering that. In the past year, we've had a lot of companies email us either through our website or getting our information through the university career services, reach out to us and tell us they're interested in doing an event with us, and we'd have like a meeting with them, and then we'd potentially discuss like a good event time and date. And I think that's like a great way to showcase your company to our members. And our events are promoted everywhere, like Instagram, all social medias, all newsletters that Mason has. And this also helps other organizations see your name, and other students see your name as well. And another way to maybe like promote your events is also maybe supporting these organizations. So Society of Women Engineers this year started a sponsorship program where the organization would promote your events, or the companies can like donate or sponsor like specific levels that our organization has, and based on levels we'd also promote your events, or not events, or your open positions to our members as well. So that also helps connect you with our members, because you're helping to sponsor us, and then you're also being able to connect with our members and get their resumes, and also promote your positions.
Yeah, and just adding on to that, I know that the Pakistani Student Association, we have done a few career events, and where like employers would come and give sort of an information session. And we've had the same company do it, like twice in a semester, where, they take resumes, they do resume building workshops as well. And I think that attracts more students, just because like they know that they're on the track to really helping us in a way that might be attractive to the company. And then we've also done like mock interviews and stuff like that. So I think, just really contacting the president or whoever is a part of the group, and just asking them, what are students looking for with us? What are they really looking for, and how can we help that, and how can we, achieve their goals and stuff? And I think that'd be super helpful.
For all the suggestion you guys just elevated, how much of that has been happening virtually? And if you could elevate a best practice for an event you've had with a company during this, past virtual year, what would that example be?
Particularly for Society of Women Engineers, we've actually had a lot more companies reach out to us in the past year because it's definitely been more easy to hold virtual events. And we've also had a lot more members come to these events as well. We had like two events in the past, or we had two events this semester with like CGI. We had like a resume workshop in the beginning, then we had an interview workshop. And we had a lot of members actually come to those as well. They were genuinely interested. Virtual events have definitely made it more simple and reduces time for like transportation, and it also makes it more flexible for people to attend these events. So we've actually seen a good turnout in the past year.
We've been seeing the same thing as well, Shruti. It's actually worked out kind of nicely to be able to spin all this up online. So any other thoughts before we move on to the next question? Okay, we're going to talk about interviews. So what types of things do you want to see at an interview, hear at an interview, be able to observe that help demonstrate to you that you are on the site of a company that values diversity and inclusion? We could go back to, not to, suggest anyone's answers, but Charles, you had a great point earlier about how at career fairs and such, it goes a long way to see people that are like, that look like you, that represent, maybe they were alphas when they were in school, past alumni. Carry that thread over to an interview environment. Anything that you would like to see?
Yeah, but basically that, just seeing people who look like me, who are within the same, maybe from Mason as well, just all that really helps and really makes people more comfortable with interviewing. So it's not too intimidating for the people, but yeah.
I think like, oh, sorry, I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
I've also seen like in the past when I've gone for interviews, companies do like a tour of their building and their offices, and I think just seeing who's working, if do I see people like me, that really shows that, or do I see diverse people, that really shows how invested the company is in diversity inclusion. And I think that really does matter. Even people who are interviewing me, like all of that are great indicators.
Yeah, I was actually about to say the same thing, and I do think that the people who interview us, I think describing their experiences at the company would give us an insight on how company culture is. And I think for us as going into an interview, I think for us it's super important to ask that as well, just for our own information. Like how company culture is, what type of employee resource groups there are. So yeah, I think that'd be super important as well.
And I want to add on, like when you're doing the interview, like does it make you feel the employer or the student interviewing? Like, do you feel welcomed? And like also the tour, I expect the tour of what I want. Like if I work there, I want to see like how the environment is, how diverse it is as well. So not like if they don't give it to you, like ask if they can like tour you around.
Great. So I'm going to combine two questions because I want to be mindful of time. We have about 20 minutes left and still a bunch of questions to get to. So this question is about smaller companies. All of you had so many great ideas that you shared at the beginning for how you're evaluating companies. And some of them may not be possible for companies that are, say, like under 20 people. Shruti, you gave a great example of maybe look for a chief diversity officer. Likely in an organization the size as 20 people, that wouldn't be possible. Have you considered that, and how might you go about evaluating a small company differently?
I think it brings back to the point I mentioned earlier, I feel like I've worked with a small company in the past. I had my first internship at a small company, and I was actually building their website, and there's like a page for about us, and you can. And I think I mentioned this earlier. You can see like the leadership team. Just within the leadership team, you're seeing like a diverse population, seeing what kind of people are like promoted, and maybe even having like a section on the website showing like experiences diverse employees have had, even if there's only a few of them. I think that really does show that the company is still invested.
And to chime off of that, for me, I know how I said how I usually check out about like the last 5 years or what they've done in the last 5 years as far as hiring for the small, but like that usually applies to like bigger companies, like big corporations. For small companies, I'm a lot more like I know like they're smaller. So for me personally, I'm like if a small company reaches out to us, like I will be like full open arms, and I'll let them talk to us, because I feel like they're a lot more they're like more genuine about it. They have more incentive to hire us as well.
Great, thank you. Here's a question that's come in that I think could generate a lot of discussion. This employer wants to talk about how to make sure that when they're reaching out to student organizations like all of yours, that they're not making the students feel tokenized. Do you guys have any thoughts? I'm sure you've probably even maybe experienced that firsthand on how to avoid, how to not do that.
I think like one of the main things is just like sort of addressing us as, how you would address anyone. I think without, including vocabulary that might be a little bit, tokenizing. I think the main thing is just contacting us like any normal person would, without any like biases or prejudices. And I think, I think that would be my 2 cents.
Personally, I haven't really experienced that too much. I haven't really like found any issues with how people reach out to us. It's more so like I don't really look too much into how they reach out and the words they use. I really care more about what happens when they do present and what happens when they do come out anyways. So as long as they show things when they do come out, they're good in my book.
Yeah, and the fact that they're just like reaching out is like a great step, and I think that's important to know.
Yeah, same here. Sui hasn't also seen anything wrong in the way the company has reached out to us. And in fact, that most of the companies have shown a lot of passion and interest in doing an event with us. And a lot of the times, even after doing an event, the company would reach out to us and say they want to continue the partnership. So I think all of that really shows that they genuinely care and are passionate and really want to keep that partnership going.
So it sounds like we make that first step, reach out, don't let the fear of doing it wrong stop you, and initiate something thoughtful is what I heard as the response. Does that sound accurate? So we're getting a lot of questions about preferences for what kinds of events are best held online. What kinds of events do your student groups enjoy the most? So I'm going to try to synthesize some. One employer points out that there really is only a month left of school, which if I could see your faces right now, I'm sure they're all smiling very, very wide. What's the best way for companies to engage with you now? And if you can tie into your answer, the types of events that you find the most appealing.
I can start that off. Personally, I think definitely, I don't think this is the time to do a lot of like resume workshops or interview workshops. Even though there are a lot of people who are still interviewing, like I think at this time, the best kind of events are more like maybe like panel events where students are can learn from employees working at the company, learn about their experiences, ask any questions. I also think coffee chats are more interactive way to do information sessions. And I think those are just really great interactive events to do during this time for, especially for like smaller companies. Like if a lot of the members don't know about the company, like a fun coffee chat is definitely something that people would like to attend.
Shruti, take 1 minute to describe what a coffee chat is for anybody who maybe hasn't attended one or hosted one in the past.
Um, well, we've had different kind of coffee chats. For an example, there's like a speed dating coffee chat where you have like a lot of employees or recruiters come from the company, and you'd have breakout rooms, and like you'd break out a lot of the attendees into the different breakout rooms, and within those breakout rooms you'd have students asking the employees some questions like about like their experience or why they chose the company, why they're working at the company. So just having like smaller breakout rooms instead of having like a huge room with just a couple of employees and a lot of students asking questions, because that's also not interactive, because you can't have like everyone with their mics on, their videos on, but with smaller groups, smaller breakout rooms, that is still possible. And I think it's more personal that way and actually builds real engagement.
Great, thank you. So it's a less informal way to meet employers and recruiters is what I'm hearing.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think also icebreaker activities also kind of help and make a lot of things more fun. And also, we've also seen like a lot of like design thinking events, just very creative events, like a design thinking workshop, or I've seen like building your brand workshop. Like these are very different from the typical interview resume workshops, and they're also very interesting for a lot of students to attend and learn from people who've been in the industry for a long time on how to actually build your brand, how to create like a name for yourself.
Thank you. How about any of the other panelists? Best practices for how to engage, how your organizations like, what kind of events are effective?
I would say, especially, I would say, of course, mock interviews and resume workshops as well, because at least with those events, like people, like, although maybe they didn't get an interview or didn't get like a job or an opportunity, at least they got something out of it where they can feel like they took something home from the event. But besides those two, I would say panelists a lot. I know one time we did a professional panelist with people within the industry, a lot of our alumni as well. So these were alumni who came from Mason, who are working in all engineering jobs with, like, from a wide array, and doing things like that where they can like talk to us and like mentor us and give us like genuine advice on how to kind of like maneuver within a company and maneuver within even trying to get into a company really helps.
Sort of that like insider's point of view, right? Like, this is how I did it. This is how I felt back when I was on campus and how I managed to get where I am now, that kind of advice. Great. Crystal, it looked like you may have had something to say earlier.
I was gonna say, like, I went to one like 2 weeks ago. It was like a career readiness. It was with African Student Association and Alpha. I wrote Alpha chapter here at Mason. It was with career building, and then like talking about LinkedIn and how getting your resumes and cover letters right. So I feel like those are important as well. And like what Shruti was talking about, sessions. And if like, we don't know, like nowadays everything's online. We don't know like how different times everybody's able to go on. So like different sessions at like different times would be awesome. And also like just recording it and like posting it online, or just sending it out to anybody who missed it because of their unexpected hours of the day.
That's feedback we can use to offer multiple times, right? To accommodate people's just because it's online doesn't mean we're not busy. Anyone else? Okay, I haven't checked to see what our next question is, so I need to build in some stall time here. Oh, here's a great one. What mistakes do interviewers and employers make when interviewing students? We may have stumped the panel. I'll give you just another minute to think about it. If we don't have any thoughts about it, we can move on.
Could you repeat the question actually?
Sure. So what mistakes do you think employers might make when interviewing students?
I feel like it's really, really hard for the interviewer to make a mistake, in my opinion. I mean, I feel like, you know, of course, there's certain things you can say to make a mistake and really just like throw people off, but like, I think it's really, really hard. I think you need to like either like not be self-aware or, you know, really, be really blunt to like make a mistake like that personally.
I agree with Charles as well. Yeah.
Agree with Charles as well. I don't think that I personally haven't seen like an interview or make a mistake. I guess like a very basic thing would be like, you know, when the interview starts, instead of jumping like right straight into it, maybe like ease it up with like a little conversation, like how are you doing or how's your day. But I think those are very basic things that interviewers already do. But that's the only thing that comes to my mind.
I also would say that if they don't like answer or like say a specific like part of the role, the interviewer, the student will like ask them the question. So it's not really a mistake, just like them having an extra question.
Okay, those are good answers. You guys are very, I think you guys may all be very excellent interviewers or interviewees also. So let's see, what else do we have? What is, let's see here, I'm trying to make sure we get to the last couple of ones. What is the best way for an employer to communicate with your groups over the summer? That's something our office would like to know. Does such a method exist? If an employer has job openings, what should they do?
I would say keep continue like emailing, because I think we still have our emails open during the summer. If not, and like if they're interested, they will email back, especially about a job that they're interested in. Also, just social media, letting the organization know, well, the people in the organization know that they're the community or the students in their organization, like someone is reaching out for them and giving them information as well.
Yeah, I definitely think, as Crystal said, I feel like social media is like the best friend here, because if people don't, I personally don't really check my Mason emails over the summer, but I definitely am on social media a lot. But like if a company reaches out to an organization and, you know, asks them to maybe promote an event, then the organization can definitely promote it on, you know, their social media accounts, and I'm sure that would help reach a lot of students, because a lot of students do start applying to jobs and looking for jobs over the summer. So I actually think it is a very good time to promote open positions. But I feel like through organizations really helps.
And I think that, I mean, if a company has been maintaining a relationship from the beginning with one of our student organizations, that I'm sure they would be more than happy to, you know, continue that relationship over the summer, because they do realize like how helpful the company is being and how the relationship, you know, is benefiting both of us.
That's the key word there, Emaan, is relationship, right? So that way, when something like a summary hiring need comes up, you have an established framework to point to, and you're not trying to start fresh when you're feeling a little bit frantic. So I think we have time for one last question. Everyone take a deep breath, and we'll get to it. And it's about kind of the way a lot of us sort of think about the starting point. It's about job descriptions. What makes a great job description? And when you're answering this, keep diversity and inclusion in mind. So it's a great job description, but it also mentions diversity and inclusion, and what specifically might you be looking for?
So one thing that's really like really resonates with me is companies that really are really deliberate about making a pipeline with a club or a school or a just anything to really get people within that group to come in. So I know one company was talking to us about this back during the summer, that they wanted to, you know, come out to our events and recruit people, and then from there they wanted to have the people who are recruited come back and then do the same process, and like so they can be the person or the ambassador for that company, because they've experienced it, they were members of us, and going through there really, like when I see things like that or initiatives like that, it really speaks volumes to me.
That's a great answer. Anybody else want to chime in on what makes a good job description? What you'd like to see in there about diversity, equity, and inclusion? What about how much you're going to be paid? Who likes to see that in the job description?
I mean, other than sort of diversity and inclusion, I think that it's really important just to be super specific about, you know, what the role is. And I think, for example, like I've come across some companies on Handshake, which will describe the role in a very brief manner. And that just like makes me a little put off because I don't really know like what I'm applying to, for example. So I think being super descriptive and detailed in the job position role would be helpful for students.
I was hoping that you might say that. Thank you for validating that for me. And also something for the panelists to consider. We talked a little bit in the beginning about how companies can demonstrate more than words, right? Consider a company that includes their DEI statement in their job description. Would that be helpful? Is that going beyond words? What are your thoughts about that and how you would like to see that represented?
Yeah, I was just about to say that actually. Maybe having like a statement from like maybe like a leader or like the CEO, showing how invested they are in diversity, equity, inclusion, and why it matters to them so much. I think would kind of be matters to them and the company so much. I think that would be really nice to have in the job description as well. Apart from also having information about, obviously, as Emaan said, like going more in depth about the position, the responsibilities, the expectations. I think all of that makes a really good job description.
And I think I would say like the DEI statement is as important as the mission statement, for example, because as Shruti said, like including that in the description, like in the role position, is would be a good thing for students to see that, because they're putting the exact same importance on that as much as like the company's goal.
Also, wanted to piggyback off of, if they're not like broad about it in the description, just have it like their link to it specifically to that part of it on their job description so that others can look at it on their own time as well.
That's a great tip, Crystal. Because oftentimes this information is there, but it feels like it's harder to find than it needs to be, right? Any other thoughts on that?
I also want to that it shouldn't be hard to find on their website as well. Mm-hmm. On the tabs, like it's right there when you click it.
I think for any of the note takers in the audience, that's like a major bullet point from the discussion today. And with that, I'm going to close by saying what a tremendous panel you have all been, and so many great takeaways. Don't make it hard to find. Come and be genuine. I'm confident that the people in the audience learned a tremendous deal from you. And I don't know if you've been looking at the chat, but you should take a look at it now, because there is a lot of positivity coming through from the audience. So once again, to all of our student panelists, you have been incredible. Thank you. I am going to ask my colleague Christy to share her screen. Now, employers, our student panelists have been very gracious and are sharing with you their emails. We've never had an event this size before where we've shared emails like this. So I'm going to ask all of you to be mindful that some of the students may be getting a significant amount of email as a result of this event, and their response time perhaps might be slightly delayed. It's also fair to point out that we have some students graduating even maybe sooner than I realized, which is wonderful for them, but sad for us. And so this contact information, you should consider a good immediate outreach, but maybe not how you would contact NSBE in 8 years, right, Charles? I would expect Charles will be long gone by then, okay? To say that we learned a lot really doesn't say enough, but what I'm really hoping everyone takes away from this is that while it isn't an immediate thing, but for any employer that wants to invest in our campus and come and engage in these diverse discussions and recruit our students, we welcome you. And our student organizations are looking forward to hearing from you. That's all I have. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you, panelists.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having us.